Here we go. I wonder if I should put my glasses on. I am 50 now.
So you don't have to advertise it.
Good point. Hey guys, so thank you for watching Behind the Scenes of Today with Pastor Jay with Jill Woolbright. I gotta call her by her official title once we start. I can't tell you what it is right now, but she'll love it. Okay, so I said maybe I should wear my glasses, but I was told maybe I shouldn't advertise it either. So this is gonna be fun. I really don't need them. All righty, you ready?
You are now tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio, where we discuss inspiring and informative news. And now here's your host, Pastor Jerlyn Denny.
Good morning, wake up, and good morning. I want to thank everyone for the wonderful birthday wishes. Yes, I celebrated the 21st anniversary of my 29th birthday. I turned the big 50. Yes, this is probably the last time I mentioned it because I'm still 29 in some months. But I had some surprises and I am still celebrating. So there it is. I think I'm going to celebrate for the rest of the year. I don't know when I'm going to have my birthday party, but one's coming eventually, one of these days. But I have my great guest in the studio. I'm going to call her by her official title, the Honorable Jill Woolbright.
You know that gets me.
Yeah, the Honorable Jill Woolbright, which that's kind of cool because last time you were on the show, you were running for school board.
Yes.
Now you are the officially elected school board member for Flagler County Schools. How's that? And yes, it is the Honorable. Is that your title, right?
Yes, but it takes me back because that's just not how I roll. I'm just Jill.
You're just Jill?
But I did the first time I got mail from the state of Florida with a certificate. It did say honorable, and it just really took me back. So I'm just Jill.
You're just Jill.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it like? Okay, because you didn't want, getting into the race, it was just something you've been in education for a while. You felt like this was a calling, what the Lord wanted you to do. We've discussed that when he was on my show. But is it everything you thought it would be?
It's everything I thought it would be and more. Definitely everything I thought it would be and more. And definitely still feel that it was my calling. Feel that I have been called for a purpose. And wherever I go, I have to take who I am at the core. And who I am at the core is a child of God. And it influences everything I say and do because that's what it means to be a child of God. So I've just put it right out there. Yes, I am a Christian, and people knew that going in. And it affects my decisions. And I have to weigh that and pray about that. And I pray a lot about my job.
What are some of the challenges? Because I can't even imagine, before we get into this. So, all right, so you're sworn in, you're on the school board. What would you say has been one of your first challenges?
The biggest challenge so far, and it's getting better because I'm becoming a little more accustomed to it, is that my whole career in education, we were encouraged when we went from the old traditional ways of everyone keeping their secrets to themselves in their classrooms and doing their thing and trying to outshine everybody, to many, many years ago collaborating and sharing our ideas and mentoring other teachers and feeding off of each other and planning cooperatively together and collaborating. It was huge, especially because as a teacher, you're in the classroom by yourself all day long with the students. But to prepare for those students, it takes collaboration with all your peers because everybody brings something different. Everybody has a strength. And when you plan together, you can pull on everyone's strength in that plan. And as a school board member, because of the Sunshine State law, I did not realize just how restrictive that is for school board members. So we cannot discuss any school business outside the board chambers or the workshop room.
Oh, wow.
So only when we are workshopping before the public eyes, and which is streamed and recorded and a permanent public record, everything we discuss is part of public record. And so we can't have outside conversations. So many things that are brought to us, we are on the fly right then and there, asking our questions and being presented information at the same time that the public is hearing it. So, and then we have to make decisions together, collaborate. Well, we vote individually, but our collective voice makes the decisions. So it's kind of lonely when it comes to that, because I have to individually make up my decision on which way I want to vote on an action item.
So wow. I can imagine that would be challenging. So we're going to get into some hot topic stuff, because I did a public records request. Uh-oh, dun, dun, dun. I did a public records request because Flagler County schools have been doing some secret stuff. And I say secret stuff because I found out the school board didn't even know about it. The parents didn't even know about it. They were implementing equity protocols and doing a bunch of stuff. Few things I found in my public records requests that blew my mind was documents on how a parent can change the name and gender of a child on their birth certificate. Why is Flagler Schools or a school board member or the school board attorney or whoever, why are they involved in stuff like that?
It's usually outside sources. Mm-hmm. So there's a group, a PAC, that is very, very active in the state of Florida. And they obviously are trying to influence the agendas of all school boards in the state of Florida. And they have constituents that are part of their group, and that they help walk through the process of transgendering children. So there was they were reached out. There was someone in the community that reached out to them to find out how they would go about the process of changing the birth certificate of their child, because the parent was for that and wanted to help their child go through that process. And because there had been a lot of contact with that family, the school, one of the attorneys from that group contacted the school board to help in reference to the student that was trying to do that in our county, to help walk them through.
Okay, so let me just get down to the nitty gritty. There's an organization called Equality Florida, which I'm very upset about how Flagler schools just indoctrinated their policies, their thoughts, their way of thinking into Flagler schools, because that's exactly what happened. I did follow, a concern. I voiced my concern with a few school board members about how Equality Florida's logo were on Flagler schools' equity protocols, which should not have been. Their political advocacy group for the LGBTQ. So in my opinion, as a parent and as a community member outside looking in, it just looked like Flagler schools were adopting whatever policies this group were doing without any regards to anyone. Was it vetted? I mean, you may not be able to answer any of these questions, because it's my understanding as a school board member, you yourself was in the dark. What was any of this vetted? Did this come to the school board? I mean, how do people do stuff like this? What is going on in America where our superintendent of schools, her staff, the school board attorney, they just implement protocols and policies without anybody knowing, and I'm calling it the secret agenda, the secret files for the LGBT community, and not saying anything to anybody or anything because they just don't have to. I mean, is that how it works?
Well,
you're new to the school board, so I don't know. Is that how it works? They just do what they want to do concerning my child or my children, however they want to do it, and put whatever policies they want in place, regardless of whether I agree with them or not.
Well, that's part of the learning curve that I've experienced.
Okay.
There is a separation of duties and powers. So the school board writes policy and adopts policy, and the superintendent and her staff carry that policy out through procedures. and she is over the district office and their staff. They're over operations. The school board is not over operations. So it, there were mistakes made and they were owned, and they have been corrected, and some of it is still yet to be determined. So when I came on, evidently, back when Mr. Tager was here and other executive members were here, they had gone down this path of trying to make procedures in place for students because there were students coming forward. And there's also case law. So we have to follow law. That's supreme. That's, we follow law, whether we like the law or not, we follow the law. If we don't like the law, there are ways to change laws, which is not through the schools. We have to abide by the law as they come down from the state. So there were laws in place that we needed to make sure that we followed. And there was just these questions and problems coming up with children. So they started this path and they went to trainings, one of which was Florida Equality. They went to trainings, and you need to know too that Florida Equality has aggressively been reaching out to the districts, and as they add numbers, now they have over half of the counties in the state. But the number one goal was, because we had pressures from parent groups to change our non-discrimination clause, but to include gender identity. These things were coming about. So it was a hot issue. And so they were exploring that. And they were exploring law, but they did reach out to Florida Equality and attend their training. So then we had a transfer of superintendents and a change in the student and engagement person changed. And so that continued. And in the interim, that April, the school board, which I was not on at the time, voted to not include gender identity in the non-discrimination clause.
But when I look at the discrimination policy and the non-discrimination stuff that the flagless schools have, it would appear to me that even the transgenders are included in that.
Right. So they were included.
The policy already, in just my opinion, looking in, because I'm just curious. I have biracial children. So are you going to put the term biracial in the policy because I have children made up of more than one race?
And that was my contention, is that the policy already included all students, so we didn't need to start naming special student groups, because the minute you start naming some groups, other groups can come along and say, well, you left me out. So basically it's for all students, but there was pressure, and the school board, my very first school board meeting was in December, and that was the vote. And so the school board voted in favor of adding gender identity, and it was because, I think it was even said at the dais, that the people that came forward, the people that the school board heard from, which is what the school board's supposed to do, is represent the constituents, were in favor of it. And there was even a petition of 400 students from FPC that signed a petition saying they wanted it added for their peers. So that was the decision. Now from there,
but of course it was quiet. A lot of parents didn't know. A lot of students weren't.
Well, I don't think any of the.
My daughter goes to Matanzas High School. She wasn't aware.
The non-discrimination clause wasn't quiet. That had gone on for like a year and a half.
Correct. Which we thought was squashed.
Right. But what was not publicly shared was the procedures in order to help or walk along beside those students, because the Title IX a lot of laws came out in the summer where we had to open up our non-discrimination policies, the harassment policies, because of Title IX changes. So we had to open them up and make changes anyway. So that's how we ended up with the gender identity in there, added to the clause. For me, at that moment, it still didn't change anything.
Right.
I didn't know about these procedures. It has been known that that was not that was a mistake that all school board members didn't know. And then as a school board member, I asked for information. I wanted information because I wanted parents to know, because I was getting calls. That's how I found out, is that I was getting calls.
I was getting phone calls too.
And people
so
were
you
getting
know.
phone calls, and my
wanted to know.
phone, I was getting emails. I was getting staff were concerned because they were getting these policies that said that they did not. They were not allowed to, if the student said that they didn't want their parents to know, they weren't allowed to inform
We're
the
going to have
parents.
to take a break. We're going to talk about that. I am way over time. I know I am, but this is so good. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay.
Hey.
I am. When we come back, we'll get into that. 500. Okay, you ready? I want to give a thank you and a shout out to 500bankruptcy.com, thefloridamortgagecenter.com, and tradecoaches.org. Thank you for sponsoring Today with Pastor Jay. This is just a hot topic to me. It still is a hot topic. I know we're going to run out of time here today, so please come back, because this is something the public needs to know. Parents need to know what's going on and what is happening. I am not happy with the secret files, the secret agenda of what's been going on in flagless schools. I mean, yes, you're telling me it was a mistake. A mistake is, to me, this is more than a mistake. I think that this was a well thought out plan that was, when I look at the records requests, they've been planning this and have been working on this and doing this, and these equity protocols that they have out. First of all, flagless schools do not need to be talking about sexuality to children. I'm glad my parents did not allow me to pick my gender when I was eating glue and crayons. I'm glad my mother and father didn't allow my brother to pick his gender when he was eating boogers. I mean, when I look at, and I realize that everyone has different viewpoints. I want all children to be safe, no matter what. The safety of our children, regardless of what they consider their sexual identity to be, no matter what they consider their sexuality to be, is important to me. So I was looking at some statistics, and did you know that 19% of our youth peer-to-peer sexual assault? It's 19%. That is a huge number. 19% is larger than the LGBTQ community. It is larger than any other group. When you look at peer-to-peer sexual assault, teen-to-teen sexual assault within that age group is 19%. So our restrooms are open now. Children can use whichever restroom they want. This was before all of this. Now we have these protocols, these equality protocols. This is just ludicrous. This stuff just 5 years ago, I wouldn't think that we would be here today.
Well, when as a school board member, I have to follow the law, and I have to put aside my personal feelings.
But come on now.
But I'm
it
just
was
saying,
against the law for blacks to marry whites at one time. I'm black. My ex-husband's white.
Right.
So just because it's the law, don't make it right. And that's what I believe that they're doing over there at the government services building on the 3rd floor. They're hiding behind their interpretation of the law, and parents have rights.
Parents do have rights, and I hope to think that the decisions aren't because of an agenda. It's more because they're wanting to the narrative is that they're wanting to protect the students from abuse and bullies and being called out, because that's what started this whole movement in the counties.
I would
because there
hope
was
that that's what it's for.
That is
but
what
when
it's
you're
for.
focusing on just one group of kids and you're not looking at all students, you cannot establish policies and procedures to protect just one child or one group of students without looking at the big picture. And the policies and procedures they have put in place has affected all students.
It has. And the policies and procedures.
I don't mean to put you on the thing.
Well,
it's
if
just,
the policies and procedures are in place to protect all students, and if students aren't being protected, then that's my job to make sure all students are protected. And that's my job to hear from my constituents, their concerns about students being protected. I think everyone on the dais, that is their heart to try and protect, is that they want to protect students. How we do that and how we go about that, obviously people lean different ways, and I evidently lean differently than the majority of the board, but the majority of the board rules. But what's important, Pastor Jay, is that here coming soon is the decisions on the fleshing out of what the Parent Bill of Rights bill that passed our Senate, what that means. When the governor signs that, then we have to decide what that means. And both sides of the aisle are already making their opinions about the interpretation of what that means.
Because currently, right now, I want everyone to know that if your child goes to school and says that I'm transgender, I want to change my name, my identity, my pronoun,
I don't want my parents
to know, the school does not inform the parent. That's the way it is right now.
Because that is outing the parent. But my contention is, outing the student to the parent, which is is not legal. So my contention is, if a plan is in place, the student is making a decision to transgender.
We talk about these same kids that can't decide what to eat for breakfast.
But that's beside the point. If they are making a plan, then they have decided to out themselves, because if the plan is to change pronouns and change gender and change dress, then they are outing themselves as they go through that plan.
I agree.
So the plan outs the student, not the staff. So the student is outing themselves to make that plan. Now, coming up in July, between now and July, when the governor signs that bill and the bill becomes law, and the interpretation of that law is huge, and it is my goal as a school board member to make sure we have policy that says that we don't write any plans in Flagler County schools, whether it be IEPs, 504 plans, student safety plans, student support plans, any kind of plan in Flagler County that does not support the parents' right to know.
That's right.
And so the parents should be the first to know,
absolutely
not
agree.
the last to know, because the family unit was created in order to work as a family, and the number one authority in a home is a family. We are the parent and a guardian of the students when they're at our schools, from the time they walk in the school until they leave. We are not their parents after that. Their parents are their parents, and the point is that the parent
is the parent even when they're at that school.
Correct.
And the school is not the parent.
Right.
They're just there to educate the child. They're not there to raise the child. They're not to teach the child morals. They're not to teach the child the Bible. Nothing.
We're to come alongside the parent
That's exactly
and
right.
educating their children, and we're to protect them during the school hours.
That's it.
Our protection is after that is not our duty. It's the parents' duty. And so the agenda is that, well, there are parents that aren't good parents and that they would beat the child's rear if they. That's not our job.
There are services for that.
There are, and we think that there's abuse, by golly, we are mandatory reporters, and we report it. But we don't take a child's word for it. The services, if they hear that there's abuse, they vet that. They go out and see if there's any kind of abuse or any kind of thing going on.
Say anything.
But they will, especially adolescent children, if they're rebelling, if they're in a state of rebellion or not. They still do, to be able to manipulate, to do things that they want to do because they're trying to insert their independence, but yet they're still in our home until they are 18. So our window of protection for them is during school hours and at school functions. It is not outside of that time. Then they are to be protected and kept safe by their parents. And if their parents do not protect them and keep them safe outside of the school time, then they are to and the school becomes aware, then we are to let the authorities know, and that would be checked out.
Well,
but it's
I
not
appreciate that. And I just want to encourage everyone, please, please, please contact all the school board members here in Flagler County Schools and express what you're thinking and what you're feeling, because The schools are not parents. The teacher isn't the parent. They are not. The superintendent is not the parent of your child. These people making rules and stuff, I'm telling you, it's going to come a time, homeschool or private school. That's what I'm feeling. I don't know what's going on with public schools, and I know that you're superintendent of our public schools, but I'm getting to the point.
I'm not superintendent.
Oh, excuse me, school board. You probably should be superintendent.
No.
I know you're
I don't want
on the
that
school
job.
board, but we've got to get to a point where we just cannot allow it. It is time out. People need to stand up and start doing something. If you didn't know before, you know now. Thank you so much, Jill. Got to have you back in. The Honorable Jill Woolbright. You are in a fight. I'm going to be praying for you, and I'm grateful that you are light in darkness. Because you got to have both sides. You just can't have
both sides
one side.
Right.
And that's
all
what I'm
students
seeing.
need to be represented, all families and all constituents. And my constituents were ringing they still stop me everywhere
Because
in the
people
community
don't
to talk about
understand.
it. Yes.
The LGBTQIA plus community still includes puppy love, bear love, all these other things that we
I
thought
don't know
were
all
fetishes.
about that yet, but I hope it doesn't come to Flagler
and
schools.
I asked the superintendent, I said, are you going to allow a student to walk another student down the hall with a dog collar on? I have yet to get my answer. So that's where I'm going to end it. All right, guys, you know what I say. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow's not promised. What are you going to do today? Today, you are going to call and email the superintendent and the school board members, the principals of the schools, and go, what in the world is going on in our school system? Because it's ridiculous. God bless you and have a great day.